Hyunwoo Kim stood in the grand hall of the Galactic Council, watching thousands of alien beings from across the galaxy. The massive dome stretched high above him, filled with floating platforms where different species sat in their own special areas. Some aliens looked like giant lizards, others glowed with bright light, and some had tentacles instead of arms. But they all had one thing in common. They were much older and more advanced than humans. Hyunwoo had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years now. He still remembered the day when the Council first contacted Earth, offering friendship and knowledge. The humans were so excited to finally meet other intelligent life. They thought it meant Earth would become part of something bigger and better. "Ambassador Kim," said a deep voice behind him. Hyunwoo turned to see Veltar, the Chancellor of the Vorthak species. The lizard-like alien was twice as tall as any human, with green scales that shimmered under the dome's lights. His yellow eyes never seemed to blink, and his mouth was filled with sharp teeth. "The Council is ready to hear Earth's monthly report." Hyunwoo nodded and walked to the center of the hall. A beam of light surrounded him, and suddenly his voice could be heard throughout the entire dome. This was always the part he enjoyed most, telling the galaxy about human progress and achievements. "Honored Council members," Hyunwoo began, "Earth continues to contribute to our galactic community. This month, we sent another shipment of rare metals from our asteroid mining operations. Our scientists have also made progress in quantum computing, which we are happy to share with all member species." High above him, Zephyra of the Luminary species floated in her crystal chamber. The Luminary looked like beings made of pure light, with no solid body that humans could understand. When she spoke, her voice sounded like music mixed with the wind. "Earth's contributions are adequate," Zephyra said. The word adequate hung in the air like an insult, though Hyunwoo tried not to take it that way. "However, we have concerns about your species' rapid expansion into space. Some council members worry that humans are becoming too ambitious too quickly." Before Hyunwoo could respond, his communication device buzzed. It was a priority message from Captain Ji-hoon Park, commander of the exploration ship Soul's Pride. Hyunwoo glanced at the message and his eyes widened. They had found something big. Meanwhile, far away in the Kepler system, Ji-hoon was standing on the bridge of his ship, staring at the most incredible sight he had ever seen. Floating in space before them was a massive alien structure, bigger than Earth's moon, and covered in strange symbols that seemed to move and change as he watched them. "Captain," said his science officer, a young woman named Min Jung, "the structure appears to be completely dead. No power signatures, no life signs. But the materials it's made from, they're unlike anything in our databases." Ji-hoon walked closer to the main screen. The structure looked ancient, like it had been floating in space for thousands of years. But even in its dead state, he could tell it had once been incredibly advanced. "Take us closer," he ordered. "But keep our shields up and weapons ready. We don't know what built this thing or why it's here." As Soul's Pride moved closer to the massive structure, they began to detect something amazing. The dead alien ship was filled with technology that was far beyond anything humans or even the Council species had ever created. There were power sources that could fuel entire planets, weapons that could destroy stars, and computers that could think faster than any living being. "Captain," Min Jung said excitedly, "if we could study this technology, it could advance human civilization by thousands of years. We could become one of the most powerful species in the galaxy." Ji-hoon nodded, but something felt wrong. In all his years exploring space, he had learned to trust his instincts. This discovery felt too convenient, too perfectly placed where humans would find it. Back on Earth, Dr. So-Young Lee was having similar doubts about the Council, but for different reasons. She worked in Seoul's largest xenobiology research center, studying alien cultures and their histories. For months, she had been noticing strange gaps in the information the Council provided about galactic history. "Tae-min, look at this," she said to her research partner, pointing at her computer screen. Tae-min Choi rolled his chair over to look at what she had found. According to Council records, there were once over 300 intelligent species in this galaxy, So-Young explained. But now there are only 47 member species. What happened to all the others? Tae-min frowned as he read the data. The records say they died out naturally. Diseases, wars among themselves, environmental disasters. But look at the timing. Most of these extinctions happened right after these species made major technological advances. So-Young nodded grimly. And look at this pattern. Every species that discovered certain types of advanced technology, quantum weapons, consciousness, transfer, reality manipulation, they all mysteriously disappeared within a few decades. That's not a coincidence, Tae-min whispered. While So-Young and Tae-min were discovering disturbing patterns in galactic history, Ji-hoon was reporting his amazing discovery to the Council. He sent detailed scans and data about the ancient alien structure, expecting the Council to be as excited as his crew. The response came back within hours, and it was not what Ji-hoon expected. "Captain Park," came Veltar's cold voice over the communication system. "The structure you have discovered contains extremely dangerous technology. For the safety of all galactic species, you are ordered to transfer all research materials to Council Facility 7 immediately. No human personnel are to study this technology further." Ji-hoon felt anger rising in his chest. With respect, Chancellor Veltar, this discovery was made by humans in unclaimed space. Surely Earth has the right to study it ourselves. "The Council has spoken, Captain." Zephyra's musical voice joined the conversation. "This technology is too dangerous for any single species to possess. It must be secured by the Council for the safety of all." After the communication ended, Ji-hoon stared at the ancient structure on his screen. Something about the Council's reaction bothered him greatly. They seemed to know exactly what this technology was and why it was dangerous. But how could they know that if it was from an unknown civilization? "Min-jung," he said quietly, "make copies of all our scans and research data. Hide them in our secondary computer systems. I have a feeling we're going to need them later." Back in the Council chambers, Veltar and Zephyra met in private after all the other species had left. "The humans have found it," Veltar said, his reptilian features showing satisfaction. "The destroyer technology from the Keth-Moran civilization." "Perfect," Zephyra replied, her light form pulsing with what might have been pleasure. "Now we can begin the final phase. Soon the humans will join the 300 other species who thought they could challenge the Council's authority. Neither of them noticed the small recording device hidden in the shadows of the chamber, placed there months ago by a member species that had grown suspicious of the Council's true intentions. 3 weeks after Ji-hoon's discovery, strange things began happening throughout the galaxy. Ships belonging to Council member species started moving in unusual patterns. Trade routes that had been stable for centuries suddenly changed direction. Most concerning of all, several species began recalling their ambassadors from border worlds. Hyunwoo noticed these changes during his daily briefings at the council headquarters. When he asked Veltar about the unusual military movements, the Vorthak Chancellor's response was cold and dismissive. "The council is conducting routine security exercises," Veltar said, his yellow eyes staring directly at Hyunwoo. "Nothing that concerns Earth or its limited understanding of galactic politics." But Hyunwoo had not survived 3 years as a diplomat by being naive. He began keeping detailed records of every ship movement, every changed trade route, and every species that seemed to be preparing for something big. Meanwhile, in the secret chambers beneath the council building, Veltar and Zephyra were meeting, with military commanders from 12 different species. The room was filled with holograms showing star maps, fleet positions, and most importantly, detailed plans of the Sol system where Earth was located. "The evidence against the humans is almost ready," Veltar announced to the gathered commanders. "Our best technicians have been working day and night to create the perfect proof of human betrayal." General Krixtal of the hegemony species raised one of his 4 arms. "What kind of evidence? The other species will want to see something convincing before they agree to destroy an entire civilization." Zephyra's light form shifted colors as she spoke. "We have recordings of human voices discussing the use of destroyer technology. We have fabricated research documents showing that Earth has been secretly building weapons capable of destroying entire star systems. We even have fake communication intercepts showing humans planning attacks on peaceful council worlds." "But none of that is true," said Commander Yethrin of the Spiral Arms Federation. "Humans barely have the technology to travel between star systems. How could they possibly threaten anyone?" Veltar smiled, showing his rows of sharp teeth. "The truth is irrelevant, Commander. What matters is that the evidence looks real. Once we present it to the full council, fear will do the rest. Every species will demand action against the human threat." "And if some species don't believe the evidence," asked General Krixtal, "then they will face the same fate as the humans." Zephyra replied simply, "The galaxy has room for only one ruling power, and that power is the Council." Back on Earth, Admiral Do-hyun Jang was receiving disturbing reports from across human space. The small network of colonies and outposts that humanity had established were all reporting the same thing. Alien ships were gathering in nearby systems, but they weren't engaging in any hostile actions. They were just watching and waiting. Do-hyun stood in the command center of Luna Station, Earth's primary military headquarters located on the moon. Through the large windows he could see Earth spinning slowly in the distance, its blue surface peaceful and unaware of the danger approaching. "Admiral," said his aide, Lieutenant Kyung-min, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Ambassador Kim at the Council headquarters." Do-hyun nodded. "Put him through on the secure channel." Hyunwoo's face appeared on the main screen, and Do-hyun could see the worry in his eyes. "Admiral, something is very wrong here. The Council has been acting strangely for weeks. They're moving ships all across the galaxy, and I think they're planning something against Earth." "What kind of evidence do you have?" Do-hyun asked. "Nothing concrete yet, but my sources tell me that a special session of the Council has been called for tomorrow. They're going to discuss what they call the human problem." "Admiral, I think we've been set up." Before Do-hyun could respond, the communication was cut off. Warning lights began flashing throughout Luna Station's command center, and alarm sounds filled the air. "Admiral!" shouted Lieutenant Kyung-min. "We're detecting massive hyperspace signatures throughout the system. Ships are dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around us." Do-hyun looked at the tactical display and felt his blood run cold. Hundreds of alien warships were appearing throughout the Sol system. They were massive vessels, far larger and more advanced than anything in Earth's small fleet. "How many ships do we count?" Do-hyun asked, his voice steady despite the fear he felt. "Over 800 so far, sir, and more are still arriving. They're maintaining position just outside the asteroid belt, but they have us completely surrounded. On the Bridge of Soul's Pride, Ji-hoon was watching the same terrifying sight. His exploration ship had been returning to Earth when the alien fleet arrived. Now he found himself trapped between the approaching armada and his home planet. "Captain," said Min-jung, "we're receiving a transmission from the lead alien ship. It's Chancellor Veltar." "Put him on screen," Ji-hoon ordered. Veltar's reptilian face filled the display, but this time he wasn't pretending to be friendly. His expression showed only cold satisfaction. "Captain Park," Veltar said, "you and your crew will surrender your ship immediately. You are all under arrest for crimes against the galactic community." "What crimes?" Ji-hoon demanded. "We've done nothing wrong." "Haven't you?" Veltar smiled his predator's smile. 3 weeks ago, you discovered ancient destroyer technology. Instead of turning it over to the Council as ordered, you kept copies of the research data. That technology has now been used to build weapons of unimaginable destruction." Ji-hoon felt confusion and anger. "That's impossible! We gave you everything we found! We haven't built any weapons!" "The evidence says otherwise, Captain. In 1 hour, we will present proof to the entire galaxy that humanity has betrayed the trust of the Council. Your species has been secretly developing weapons that could destroy entire star systems. The galaxy will demand justice." The transmission ended, leaving Ji-hoon staring at a blank screen. He turned to Min-jung, who looked as confused as he felt. "Captain, we know we haven't built any weapons. The technology we found was completely beyond our understanding. We couldn't have used it even if we wanted to. I know that, and you know that," Ji-hoon said grimly. "But apparently the Council has evidence that says otherwise. The question is, how do you create evidence for something that never happened?" At that moment, engineer Hae-won Shin was working in the deep sections of Luna Station when her computer systems began detecting something disturbing. Hidden in the station's communication networks, she found traces of data that shouldn't exist. "This is impossible," she whispered to herself as she studied the information on her screen. "These are research files about destroyer weapons, but we never did any research on destroyer weapons." As Hae-won dug deeper into the station's computer systems, she discovered something that made her blood run cold. For weeks, someone had been secretly placing fake research files throughout Earth's military networks. The files showed detailed plans for building weapons using the ancient technology that Ji-hoon had discovered, but the files had been created by programs that were not human in origin. The coding patterns, the data structures, even the way the information was organized, it all pointed to alien technology being used to frame humanity. "They're setting us up," Hae-won realized. "The Council is framing Earth for crimes we didn't commit." She immediately tried to contact Admiral Do-hyun, but found that all communication channels were being jammed by the alien fleet surrounding Earth. Humanity was trapped, cut off from the galaxy, with fake evidence being prepared to justify their destruction. In the council chambers, Veltar stood before representatives from every major species in the galaxy. The Great Dome was packed with aliens who had come to witness what the council called the most serious threat to galactic peace in 1,000 years. "Fellow council members," Veltar announced, "we have discovered that the human species has betrayed our trust in the most dangerous way possible. They have been secretly developing destroyer technology." weapons capable of eliminating entire civilizations. Gasps and shocked voices filled the dome. Destroyer technology was legendary throughout the galaxy, the ultimate forbidden weapon that had been banned for thousands of years. Zephyra's musical voice joined Veltar's presentation. We have intercepted human communications discussing plans to use these weapons against peaceful council worlds. We have discovered research facilities where humans have been building destroyer bombs. The evidence is undeniable. Holographic displays throughout the dome began showing the fake evidence the council had created. Recordings of human voices discussing planetary destruction, research documents showing weapon designs, and communication intercepts revealing supposed attack plans. To the alien species watching, it all looked completely real and utterly terrifying. The alien armada surrounding Earth was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Admiral Do Hyun stood in Luna Station's command center, watching the tactical display that showed over 3,000 enemy ships positioned throughout the Sol system. Every major species in the Council had sent their most powerful warships. The massive Vorthak dreadnoughts floated like dark mountains in space, their hull armor thick enough to withstand direct hits from nuclear weapons. The luminary crystal ships glowed with internal energy, each one capable of turning entire cities to glass with focused light beams. Dozens of other species had contributed their own unique and deadly vessels to the fleet. Against this overwhelming force, humanity had exactly 47 ships. Most of them were exploration vessels like Ji-hoon's Soul's Pride, never designed for combat. Earth's entire military fleet could fit inside just one of the larger enemy dreadnoughts. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Kyung-min, "we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies. They're broadcasting to the entire system." "Put it on the main screen," Do Hyun ordered. Veltar's reptilian face appeared, but now he wasn't bothering to hide his true nature. His yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction, and his mouth was curved in a predator's smile. "People of Earth," Veltar began, "you have been found guilty of the most serious crimes against galactic civilization. Your species has betrayed the trust of the Council by secretly developing destroyer weapons, technology capable of eliminating entire star systems." Do Hyun felt anger building in his chest. "That's completely false. We've never developed any such weapons." But Veltar continued, as if he couldn't hear the human responses. "The evidence against your species is overwhelming. We have recordings of your leaders discussing plans to destroy peaceful worlds. We have discovered your secret research facilities where these forbidden weapons were being built. The galaxy demands justice." On the screen, Veltar's expression became even more cold and threatening. "However, the Council is merciful. We offer humanity one chance to avoid complete destruction. You will immediately surrender all of your military forces. Your entire population will be relocated to a single world where you can be properly supervised. Earth itself will become a Council monitoring station to ensure that no species ever again attempts such betrayal." The transmission paused, and Zephyra's glowing form joined Veltar on the screen. Her musical voice carried undertones of menace that made it sound like beautiful music played at a funeral. "You have exactly 1 standard galactic hour to respond," Zephyra announced. "If you refuse our generous offer, the combined fleets of the Council will demonstrate why destroyer weapons are forbidden. Your entire species will serve as an example to any others who might consider challenging the established order." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in shocked silence. Do-hyun looked around at his officers, seeing his own despair reflected in their faces. They all knew the truth. Humanity had never developed any forbidden weapons. But they also knew that the truth didn't matter when facing an enemy this powerful. Meanwhile, on his ship trapped between Earth and the alien fleet, Ji-hoon was making a desperate decision. He activated Seoul's Pride's long-range communication system and began broadcasting on emergency channels to every human colony and outpost in known space. "This is Captain Ji-hoon Park of the exploration vessel Seoul's Pride," he transmitted. "Earth is under attack by the combined forces of the Galactic Council. They have fabricated evidence claiming we developed forbidden weapons. This is a lie designed to justify our destruction. If anyone receives this message, stay hidden and remember what happened here." Before Ji-hoon could say more, his ship's systems began shutting down. The alien fleet was jamming all communications, cutting Earth off from the rest of the galaxy. No one would hear humanity's side of the story. No one would know the truth about what was really happening. Commander Seo-jin An was in charge of Earth's orbital defense platforms, massive weapon stations positioned around the planet to protect against asteroid impacts or hostile ships. She knew that her platforms were powerful enough to destroy smaller alien vessels, but against a fleet this size, they would be like throwing pebbles at a mountain. "Commander," said her tactical officer, "if we concentrate all platform fire on their command ships, we might be able to take out their leadership." Seo-jin shook her head grimly. "And then what? We destroy one or two ships, and they glass the entire planet in response. Our job isn't to win a hopeless fight. Our job is to protect Earth's population for as long as possible." She opened a communication channel to all defense platforms. "All stations, this is Commander An. We are facing impossible odds, but we will not surrender without a fight. Target their smaller escort vessels first. Make them pay for every mile of space they take." As the hour deadline approached, something unexpected happened. Dr. So-young Lee's research partner, Tae-min Choi, managed to escape from Earth in a small research vessel just before the communication jamming began. He had been working late at their laboratory when the alien fleet arrived, and he had made a split-second decision that would save his life. Tae-min's ship was too small for the aliens to notice among all the other activity in the system. He managed to slip past their outer perimeter and jump to hyperspace, carrying with him all of the research data that he and So-young had gathered about the Council's dark history. But So-young herself was still on Earth, trapped in the research facility in Seoul. She watched through the building's windows as alien ships began descending through Earth's atmosphere. The smaller vessels were sleek and fast, designed for precision strikes rather than massive destruction. "They're not here to negotiate," she realized. "This was always meant to be a massacre." The hour deadline passed, and humanity's response came in the form of Admiral Do-hyun's voice broadcast throughout the system. "We reject the Council's false accusations. We have committed no crimes except trusting in alien friendship. If you want to destroy us, you'll have to do it by force." Veltar's laughter echoed across the communication channels. "So be it. All fleet commanders, you may begin the operation. Show the galaxy what happens to species that defy the Council's authority." What followed was not a battle. It was a systematic demonstration of overwhelming power. The alien ships didn't target military installations first. Instead, they began with civilian areas, starting with the largest cities on Earth. The luminary crystal ships positioned themselves in Earth's upper atmosphere and began charging their main weapons. The process took several minutes, during which people in the targeted cities could see the growing light in the sky above them. Some tried to evacuate, but there was nowhere to run. New York was the first to die. A beam of pure energy descended from the luminary ship like a spear thrown by an angry god. When it struck the city, everything within 50 miles was instantly converted to glass. Buildings, vehicles, people, all transformed into crystalline structures that glittered in the sunlight for a few moments before crumbling to dust. Dr. So Young watched the destruction from Seoul and felt her heart break. Millions of people had died in seconds, and she knew her city would be next. The research facility's emergency communication system was still working, and she could hear reports from around the world as more cities fell. London was hit by Vorthak, plasma cannons that melted everything they touched. Tokyo disappeared under bombardment from hegemony particle beams. Moscow, Rio de Janeiro, Cairo, one by one, Earth's great cities were being methodically destroyed. But the aliens weren't just randomly attacking. They were following a careful plan designed to break humanity's spirit while keeping most of the planet intact for their own use later. Commander Seo Jin managed to get her orbital platforms to fire on several alien ships, and she succeeded in destroying 3 escort vessels. But the victory was meaningless. The aliens responded by targeting the defense platforms with focused fire from their dreadnoughts. Within minutes, every one of Earth's orbital defenses was reduced to space debris. The relocation that Veltar had promised turned out to be a lie, just as many humans had suspected. When alien troops landed in the surviving cities, they didn't load civilians onto transport ships. Instead, they herded people into large groups and then called in airstrikes. The message was clear. The Council had never intended to relocate humanity. This had always been planned as complete genocide, designed to send a message to every other species in the galaxy about the price of defying Council authority. As the slaughter continued, engineer Haewon Shin was still trapped in Luna Station when Vorthak attack ships arrived. She had been trying to send out one final message about the fake evidence she had discovered in Earth's computer systems, but the communication jamming made it impossible. The station's defense systems managed to hold off the attackers for almost an hour, but eventually the aliens broke through. Haewon watched from the engineering section as Vorthak's soldiers moved through the corridors, killing everyone they found. In her final moments, she managed to activate one last protocol, a quantum burst transmitter that had been hidden in the station's deepest levels. The transmitter sent a single word into deep space, broadcast on frequencies that would take years to reach their destination. Vengeance. The genocide of humanity was efficient and thorough, carried out with the cold precision that the Galactic Council had perfected over thousands of years. What the aliens called relocation quickly revealed itself as systematic extermination, designed to leave no witnesses and no survivors who might tell the galaxy what really happened. Dr. So Young Lee stood at the window of her research laboratory in Seoul, watching alien ships descend through the smoke-filled sky above the city. The building shook as explosions erupted throughout the metropolitan area. She could hear the sound of energy weapons firing and the screams of people running through the streets below. Her communication device buzzed with an incoming message from her research partner, Tae-min. His face appeared on the small screen, and she could see that he was aboard some kind of spacecraft. "So Young, I managed to escape before they sealed the system," Tae-min said urgently. "I'm taking all our research data about the Council's history to the outer colonies. If any humans survive this, they need to know the truth about what the Council has done to other species." "Tae-min, you have to warn everyone," So Young replied. "This isn't about weapons or territory. The Council systematically destroys any species that becomes too advanced. We found evidence of hundreds of civilizations that were eliminated the same way. Before she could say more, the building's power went out. Emergency lighting activated, casting strange shadows throughout the laboratory. Through the window, So Young could see luminary crystal ships positioning themselves above different sections of the city. "They're going to glass the entire area," she whispered, understanding what she was seeing. The luminary ships were known for their ability to turn entire landscapes into crystalline wasteland with focused energy beams. Taemin's image flickered as interference began affecting the communication. "So Young, I'm losing the signal. The jamming is getting stronger." "Remember what we discovered about the Kethmaran civilization," So Young said quickly. "The Council destroyed them using the same false accusations. The technology Ji-Hoon found, it belonged to the Kethmoran. The Council has been using it as evidence against species for thousands of years." The communication cut out completely, just as brilliant light began building above Seoul. So Young looked up to see the luminary ships charging their main weapons, energy gathering like miniature suns preparing to fall to Earth. She closed her eyes and thought about all the research she and Taemin had done together. At least someone would carry the truth to whatever humans might still be alive in the galaxy. That would have to be enough. The energy beam that struck Seoul was so intense that it vaporized everything within 30 miles instantly. Dr. So Young, Lee, along with nearly 10 million other people, ceased to exist in the span of a single second. Meanwhile, on Luna Station, engineer Hae-Won Shin was fighting a desperate battle to keep the station's defense systems operational. The Vorthak attack ships had been trying to break through the station's shields for over an hour, and her equipment was beginning to fail under the constant bombardment. "Hull breach in Section 7, reported Lieutenant Min Ho over the internal communication system. "We've lost life support to the entire eastern wing." Hae-Won worked frantically at her control station, trying to reroute power from damaged systems to the weapons and shields that were still functional. Through the station's windows, she could see Earth burning below them. Entire continents were covered in fire and smoke clouds. "They're not even trying to preserve the infrastructure," she realized. "They're just destroying everything." The Vorthak ships were using plasma cannons that melted through the station's armor plating like hot knives through butter. Each hit sent vibrations through the entire structure, and Hae-Won could feel the station beginning to come apart around her. "All personnel to emergency stations," came Admiral Do-hyun's voice over the communication system. "We're going to make our final stand. For Earth, and for the memory of everyone we've lost." Hae-Won knew that the station couldn't hold out much longer, but before she died, she was determined to complete one last task. Deep in the station's core, there was a quantum communication array that had been installed years ago as part of a secret project. Most people didn't even know it existed. She made her way through collapsing corridors and past areas that were open to space, finally reaching the heavily shielded chamber where the array was hidden. The quantum transmitter was designed to send messages across vast distances instantaneously, but it had never been tested at full power. "If there are any humans left alive out there," Hae-Won whispered as she activated the system, "they need to know what happened here." She programmed the array to transmit a single message on frequencies that would reach every corner of the galaxy. "Earth has fallen. The Council used false evidence. We were betrayed. Remember us. Avenge us." The quantum burst that followed drained every bit of power remaining in Luna Station. The lights went out, the artificial gravity failed, and the defense systems shut down completely. Within minutes, Vorthak soldiers were cutting through the station's hull with plasma torches. Captain Ji-hoon Park watched Luna, station's final moments from the Bridge of Soul's Pride. His ship had been captured by the alien fleet, but they hadn't killed his crew yet. Instead, they were being forced to watch the destruction of their homeworld as a form of psychological torture. "Why are they doing this?" asked his science officer Min-jung. "We never threatened anyone. We were just trying to be friends with the other species in the galaxy." Ji-hoon stared at the tactical display showing the systematic destruction of human cities. "Because we were becoming too successful too quickly. Think about it. In just 3 centuries, we went from not knowing that aliens existed to becoming a spacefaring civilization. That must have scared them. But we were sharing everything we discovered with the Council," Min-jung protested. "We gave them our technology, our resources, our knowledge. And that was our mistake," Ji-hoon said bitterly. "We showed them exactly how fast we could advance. They decided to eliminate us before we became a real threat. Through the ship's windows, they watched as the final human orbital installations were destroyed. Earth's space elevator, the massive structure that had taken decades to build, was cut down by hegemony particle beams. The pieces fell to the planet's surface like burning meteors. Admiral Do-hyun made his last stand in Luna Station's command center, surrounded by the few officers who were still alive. The Vorthak soldiers had breached the outer defenses and were fighting their way through the station's corridors. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Kyung-min, "the enemy is demanding our surrender. They say they'll spare the remaining crew if we give up now." Do-hyun looked around at the faces of his officers. These were good people who had dedicated their lives to protecting Earth and its colonies. They deserved the truth about what was really happening. "The Council isn't interested in prisoners," he told them. "They're eliminating our entire species. Anyone who surrenders will just be killed more slowly." The doors to the command center exploded inward, and Vorthak soldiers poured into the room. These aliens were larger and stronger than humans, with thick armor and weapons that could cut through steel. Their reptilian faces showed no emotion as they raised their guns. But before they could fire, Do-hyun activated one final protocol. Hidden throughout Luna Station were self-destruct charges that had been installed as a last resort. The explosions tore the station apart from the inside, taking several Vorthak ships with it in a massive fireball that could be seen from Earth's surface. The destruction of Luna Station marked the end of organized human resistance in the Sol system. But the genocide was far from over. Alien troops had landed on Earth's surface and were systematically hunting down any survivors they could find. In the ruins of London, a group of civilians had taken shelter in an underground subway station. They huddled together in the darkness, listening to the sounds of alien soldiers moving through the tunnels above them. Parents held their children close, trying to comfort them even though they all knew there was no escape. "Why is this happening? To us?" whispered a young girl to her mother. "What did we do wrong?" Her mother didn't know how to answer. How do you explain to a child that sometimes evil exists simply because it can? How do you tell them that their entire species is being murdered not for any crime they committed, but because other beings feared what they might become? The Vorthak soldiers found the shelter group within hours. The aliens showed no mercy to civilians, treating children and adults the same way, as threats to be eliminated. The underground station became a tomb for 300 people who had done nothing more than try to survive. Similar scenes played out across the planet. In Tokyo, alien ships used sonic weapons that liquefied human bodies from the inside. In Moscow, luminary energy beams turned entire apartment buildings into glass sculptures. In Cairo, hegemony forces released biological weapons that dissolved anything made of carbon. The Council had learned from previous genocides how to eliminate a species completely. They didn't just kill the people, they destroyed the culture, the history, the very memory of what humanity had been. Libraries were burned, museums were demolished, and artworks were dissolved with acid. 3 years had passed since the fall of Earth, and the galaxy had moved on. The Council's official record stated that humanity had been eliminated due to their development of forbidden destroyer weapons, and most species accepted this explanation, without question. After all, the Council had provided clear evidence, and the threat had been dealt with efficiently. The Sol system now served as a Vorthak military base. Earth's blue skies had turned gray from industrial pollution as the reptilian. Aliens stripped the planet of its remaining resources. The beautiful cities where billions of humans once lived were now nothing but crystallized ruins, left as monuments to the price of defying Council authority. Veltar stood on the observation deck of his command ship, looking down at what had once been New York City. The glass structures created by luminary energy weapons glittered in the pale sunlight like a field of deadly diamonds. He felt satisfied with their work, another potential threat eliminated before it could challenge the established order. "Chancellor," said his aide, a younger Vorthak named Kexton, "the resource extraction teams report that Earth's mineral wealth has been fully catalogued. The humans had barely begun to tap the planet's potential." "Of course they hadn't," Veltar replied. "They were too busy playing at diplomacy and exploration. If they had focused on military power from the beginning, they might have posed a real threat eventually." What Veltar didn't know was that his assessment was completely wrong. Earth had never been humanity's true center of power. It had been a carefully crafted illusion designed to hide their real strength from alien eyes. Far beyond the galaxy's rim, in a star system so distant that Council surveys had never reached it, Admiral Minsu Kang stood in the command center of Kepler Station. The massive space habitat was one of dozens of secret human colonies that had been growing in isolation for over 2 centuries. Minsu was a tall, stern-faced man in his 50s who had spent his entire life preparing for the day when humanity's true enemies would reveal themselves. He had never trusted the Council's offer of friendship, and he had dedicated his career to ensuring that humans would survive whatever betrayal eventually came. "Admiral," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Sung Ho, "we finished analyzing the quantum burst transmission that arrived 3 years ago. The message was definitely sent from Luna Station just before it was destroyed." Minsu nodded grimly. The single word, vengeance, had carried more meaning than a 1,000-page report. Combined with the earlier warnings from Captain Ji-hoon and the research data that Taimin had managed to deliver to the outer colonies, they now understood the full scope of the Council's betrayal. "How many of our people were on Earth when it fell?" Minsu asked. "Approximately 40,000, replied his intelligence chief, Commander In-ho. "Most of them were diplomatic staff, cultural exchange students, and researchers who were genuinely trying to build bridges with alien civilizations. And all of them died believing that humanity's future lay in cooperation with aliens," Minsu said bitterly. "They died as pawns in the Council's game, never knowing that their real purpose was to make our enemies complacent. The truth was that Earth's public space program had been a deliberate deception from the very beginning. While humans on Earth were celebrating their first contact with aliens and their admission to the Galactic Council, a much larger and more secretive human civilization had been expanding into the galaxy's unexplored regions. The Exodus Protocol that Admiral Do Hyun had activated in Luna Station's final moments was not just a desperate message, it was a code phrase that activated hidden colonies throughout the galaxy. These settlements had been established by humans who believed that alien contact would eventually lead to conflict, and they had spent centuries preparing for exactly this scenario. Captain Young Ho Nam stood on the bridge of the battleship Righteous Fury, watching as construction crews put the finishing touches on the ship's new weapon systems. The vessel was nearly 2 kilometers long and equipped with technology that combined the best alien innovations with uniquely human improvements. "Captain," said his weapons officer, Major Yoonji Lim, "the installation of the quantum disruptor arrays is complete. We now have the capability to destroy Vorthak dreadnoughts with single shots." Young Ho smiled coldly. The quantum disruptors were based on technology stolen from a dozen different alien species over the past 2 centuries. Human infiltrators had been working within alien governments and militaries for generations, slowly gathering the knowledge needed to build weapons that could challenge Council supremacy. "And the other ships in the battle group?" Young Ho asked. "All 47 vessels are ready for combat operations," Major Yoonji replied. "Each one is equipped with weapons and defenses that are generations ahead of anything the Council has seen before." The secret human military had been built using a simple but effective strategy: make the aliens think that humanity was weak and naive while secretly developing overwhelming technological superiority. Every piece of technology that humans had shared with the Council had been carefully chosen to reinforce their image as a primitive species stumbling into galactic civilization. Meanwhile, human scientists had been reverse engineering alien technology and improving it in ways that its original creators had never imagined. They had taken Vorthak plasma weapons and made them 10 times more powerful. They had studied luminary energy manipulation and created focused beams that could cut through any known armor. They had analyzed hegemony biological weapons and developed countermeasures that turned such attacks against their users. Colonel Yoonji Lim was coordinating with resistance cells that had been operating throughout Council space for decades. These were humans who had infiltrated alien societies so thoroughly that they held positions in government, military, and industry on dozens of different worlds. "Colonel," reported Agent Kyung-soo from the Vorthak homeworld, "the reptiles are completely unprepared for any serious resistance. They've been so focused on maintaining their dominance that they've neglected basic defensive preparations." "What about the Luminari?" Yoonji asked. "Agent Mi-young on their crystal worlds reports similar overconfidence," came the reply. "They believe that their energy shields make them invulnerable to physical attack. They have no idea that we've developed weapons specifically designed to overload their defense systems." The resistance network included humans who had been living as aliens for so long that some had forgotten their original identities. They had undergone genetic modification, surgical alteration, and psychological conditioning to blend in perfectly with alien societies. When the Exodus Protocol was activated, these sleeper agents began sabotaging critical infrastructure throughout Council space. Dr. Chang Min Park had been working as a research scientist on the hegemony homeworld for 15 years. To his alien colleagues, he appeared to be a promising young hegemony researcher who had developed several important innovations in biotechnology. They had no idea that he was actually human, or that his innovations were designed to create vulnerabilities in hegemony biological defenses. When he received the activation signal, Changmin began introducing subtle flaws into the hegemony's military biotechnology. Weapons that should have been perfectly reliable began failing at critical moments. Defense systems that should have protected against human attacks suddenly developed mysterious weaknesses. Similar sabotage was occurring throughout Council space. Power grids failed on industrial worlds. Communication networks developed strange interference problems. Military shipyards found that their new vessels had structural flaws that only became apparent during combat stress. The Council's leaders assumed these problems were coincidences or the result of sloppy manufacturing. They had no idea that they were the opening moves in a war that had been planned for over 2 centuries. Admiral Minsu stood before a holographic display showing the positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy. For 3 years, he had been gathering forces and coordinating with other hidden colonies. Now, humanity was ready to reveal its true strength. "All fleet commanders report ready," said his aide, Commander Dal Ho. "We have 10,000 ships positioned at strategic points throughout Council space. Each battle group is equipped with weapons that are decades ahead of anything the aliens possess." Minsu looked at the display showing Earth's current condition. The planet that had been humanity's public face to the galaxy was now a polluted industrial wasteland serving as a Vorthak resource extraction site. 12 billion innocent humans had died there, murdered for the crime of trusting in alien friendship. Those people believed in peace and cooperation, Minsu said quietly. They died because they couldn't imagine that an advanced civilization could be so evil. Their sacrifice will not be forgotten, and it will not go unavenged. "Admiral," said his intelligence chief, "our agents report that the Council is planning a celebration on the 3rd anniversary of Earth's fall. They're going to broadcast throughout the galaxy about how they eliminated the human threat and maintained galactic peace." Minsu smiled grimly. "Perfect. Let them gather their fleets for their celebration. It will make them easier targets when we reveal that humanity is far from extinct." The arrival of humanity's true military force at Earth was like watching a sleeping giant finally wake up and reveal its real strength. Admiral Minsu Kang stood on the bridge of Terra's vengeance as more human ships emerged from hyperspace every few minutes. What had started as a battle group of 50 vessels quickly became a fleet of thousands. "Admiral," reported his fleet coordinator, Commander Wu Jin, "final count is now at 10,437 ships. All battle groups have confirmed arrival at their assigned positions." Minsu looked at the tactical display, showing the human armada surrounding Earth. Each ship represented decades of careful planning and construction in hidden shipyards throughout the galaxy's rim. They had learned from studying every alien military technology, then improved it in ways that the original creators had never imagined. "Signal the Council forces," Minsu ordered. It's time they understood what they're really facing. "Admiral, Veltar of the Vorthak fleet had been trying to process what he was seeing for the past hour. His sensors showed human ships that were individually larger and more advanced than his own dreadnoughts. The energy signatures coming from their weapons were unlike anything in Council databases. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his tactical officers. "Our intelligence reports stated that humans had fewer than 50 military vessels total." "Sir," replied his science officer nervously, "it appears that our intelligence was completely wrong. These ships are displaying technology that is generations ahead of anything we've encountered before. The human fleet was arranged in a perfect sphere around Earth, with overlapping fields of fire that would prevent any escape. But more disturbing than their positions was their appearance. These were not the crude, improvised vessels that the Council expected from a primitive species. They were sleek, deadly machines that looked like they had been designed by masters of warfare. Min-Su's voice came across all communication channels in the system, broadcast in every major galactic language. Forces of the Galactic Council, you stand accused of genocide against the human species. 3 years ago, you murdered 12 billion innocent people based on fabricated evidence. You claimed we had developed forbidden weapons. You were wrong about the forbidden part. As he spoke, the human ships began powering up their weapons. The energy readings were so intense that they overloaded several Council sensor arrays. The aliens were getting their first glimpse of what human military technology could really accomplish. You taught us valuable lessons, Min-Su continued. You showed us that the galaxy is ruled by those strong enough to take power and keep it. You demonstrated that mercy is seen as weakness, and trust is a luxury that gets entire civilizations killed. We learned well from your example. On the bridge of his command ship, Veltar felt something he had never experienced before: genuine fear. The human fleet surrounding his forces was not just larger than expected. It was radiating power levels that suggested each individual human ship could destroy multiple Council vessels. "Chancellor," whispered his communications officer, "they're targeting our ships with some kind of scanning beam. Our computers are reporting intrusion attempts on all our systems." Before Veltar could respond, his ship's main computer announced in a calm, mechanical voice, "Warning, hostile override detected in primary systems. Weapons control compromised. Navigation compromised, life support systems compromised." Throughout the Council fleet, similar announcements were echoing on every ship. The humans hadn't just brought superior firepower, they had brought weapons that could take control of enemy vessels from inside their own computer systems. Captain Young-Ho, Nam watched from the Bridge of Righteous Fury as his ship's advanced AI systems infiltrated the Vorthak network. Human-computer technology had always been focused on adaptability and creative problem-solving, while alien systems prioritized efficiency and standardization. This meant that human programs could think their way around alien security measures that had been designed to stop predictable attack patterns. "Captain," reported his cyber warfare officer, Major Ji-Un, "we have successfully compromised 60% of the enemy fleet. We can now control their weapons, shields, and life support systems remotely." "Don't kill them yet," Young-Ho ordered. "They need to understand what's happening to them first." The demonstration of human technological superiority was being broadcast throughout the galaxy by hidden transmitters that had been placed on thousands of worlds over the decades. For the first time, non-Council species were hearing humanity's side of the story about what had really happened at Earth. Admiral Min-Su's voice continued the galactic broadcast. "The Council told you that we were developing destroyer weapons, capable of eliminating star systems. They were partially correct. We were developing such weapons, but only after we discovered their plans to betray us. Every technology we created was a direct response to their intended genocide." As he spoke, human ships began demonstrating their capabilities. The battleship Soul's Vengeance fired a single quantum disruptor beam at a small asteroid near Mars. The beam struck the asteroid and it simply ceased to exist, not destroyed or vaporized, but completely removed from reality at the quantum level. The destroyer New Tokyo targeted a Vorthak escort ship with what appeared to be a standard plasma cannon. But when the beam struck the alien vessel, the ship's armor began unraveling at the molecular level. Within seconds, the mighty Vorthak dreadnought was reduced to its component atoms, drifting away as a cloud of metallic dust. "Your weapons cannot penetrate our defenses," Minsu announced. Your ships cannot escape our targeting systems. Your computer networks are already under our control. But unlike you, we will offer genuine mercy, something you never showed the innocent civilians of Earth. High Counselor Zephyra of the Luminari joined the Council communication channel from her crystal ship. Her musical voice carried notes of panic that she couldn't hide. This is impossible. No species develops this level of technology so quickly. How did you advance so far beyond our capabilities? Captain Jin Woo Park answered from his ship Crystal Breaker. We had excellent teachers. Every time one of your species visited Earth, we learned from them. Every technology you shared with us, we studied and improved. Every weakness you showed us, we designed weapons to exploit. You spent centuries underestimating us while we spent centuries preparing for your betrayal. The human response was devastating in its simplicity. They had taken every advantage that Council species believed they possessed and found ways to neutralize or reverse them. Vorthak armor that was supposed to be impenetrable could be dissolved by quantum resonance fields. Luminari. Energy shields that were thought to be perfect defense could be overloaded by precisely tuned interference patterns. Hegemony biological weapons could be reprogrammed to target their creators instead of their intended victims. General Krixtal of the Hegemony forces tried one desperate gambit. His species' greatest weapon was a biological agent that could kill any carbon-based life form within minutes. He ordered his ships to deploy the weapon against the human fleet. The biological weapon spread through space in an invisible cloud, designed to penetrate any ship's life support system and kill everyone inside. But as it reached the human vessels, something unexpected happened. The bioweapon simply had no effect. Admiral Sang-Min Lee's voice came from the human fleet with amusement clearly audible. Did you really think we hadn't prepared for that? Our infiltrators have been modifying your biological weapons for decades. That particular strain now targets hegemony DNA instead of human genetics. You just tried to commit suicide. Throughout the hegemony fleet, alien soldiers began dying as their own weapon turned against them. The biological agent that was supposed to kill humans was instead eliminating every member of the four-armed species it encountered. The demonstration was brutally effective. In less than an hour, the human fleet had shown that they could neutralize every advantage the Council species possessed. Their technology was superior, their tactics were flawless, and their intelligence network had been infiltrating alien civilizations for generations. But the most terrifying aspect of the human arrival was not their weapons or their ships. It was their obvious restraint. They could have destroyed the entire Council fleet in the first few minutes of the encounter, but they chose not to. They wanted their enemies to understand exactly how completely they had been outmaneuvered. Forces of the Galactic Council, Minsu announced, you have one choice to make, the same choice you offered to humanity 3 years ago, surrender or face annihilation. But unlike your false mercy, our offer is genuine. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to the laws of war. Continue to resist, and you will face the same fate you imposed on 12 billion innocent humans. The alien commanders looked at their tactical displays showing thousands of human ships surrounding their forces. They saw their own vessels being controlled by enemy computer systems. They watched their most advanced weapons fail completely against human defenses. For the first time in galactic history, the Council's military forces faced an enemy that was not just stronger than them, but so far superior that resistance seemed pointless. The war that followed humanity's revelation lasted exactly 43 days. Not because the Council forces put up effective resistance, but because it took that long for human fleets to reach every corner of galactic civilization and deliver the same ultimatum to every world that had participated in Earth's destruction. Admiral Minsu Kang stood in the ruins of what had once been the Galactic Council's Grand Assembly Hall. The massive dome that had housed representatives from dozens of species was now a shattered wreck. Its floating platforms crashed to the floor and its advanced technology reduced to smoking debris. "Admiral," reported Colonel Dal Ho, "the last Vorthak stronghold has surrendered. Chancellor Veltar is requesting terms for his species' survival." Minsu looked around at the devastation surrounding him. 3 years ago, Hyun-Woo Kim had stood in this very hall as Earth's ambassador, believing that humanity had found its place among the stars through friendship and cooperation. Now that same hall was a monument to the price of trusting in alien mercy. "Bring Veltar here," Minsu ordered. "He can make his requests on the same spot where his species voted to exterminate mine." The war had not been a conflict between equals. It had been a systematic dismantling of the Council's power structure by forces they had never suspected existed. Every species that had sent ships to destroy Earth faced the same choice their victims had been given: surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. Most chose to surrender after witnessing what happened to those who resisted. The Luminary had been the first to fall. Their crystal cities, which had stood for millennia as monuments to energy-based civilization, were reduced to radioactive glass within hours. Captain Jin-Woo Park's fleet had used resonance weapons that turned the Luminary's own crystal technology against them, causing their cities to vibrate themselves apart at the molecular level. High Counselor Zephyra had made a final desperate broadcast as her homeworld died around her. "We offered you friendship. We welcomed you into galactic civilization. How could you destroy us so completely?" Jinwoo's response had been broadcast throughout the galaxy. "You offered us friendship while planning our genocide. You welcomed us as prey disguised as diplomacy. We learned what friendship means to the Council on the day you murdered 12 billion humans for crimes they never committed." The hegemony had lasted slightly longer, but their fate was even more brutal. Their biological weapons turned against them, their four-armed soldiers dying from diseases that their own laboratories had created. General Krikstal had watched his entire species succumb to biological agents that recognized hegemony DNA as the target. In his final transmission, Krikstal had asked, "Why are you doing this to us?" "We were only following Council orders, Admiral," Sang-Min Lee had replied from orbit above the dying hegemony homeworld. The humans on Earth were only following their government's orders to cooperate with the Council. Did that save them? You participated in genocide. The fact that someone ordered you to commit the crime doesn't make you innocent of it. One by one, every species that had participated in Earth's destruction faced the consequences of their actions. The humans were methodical and efficient, but they were not mindlessly destructive. Species that had opposed the genocide or remained neutral were left untouched. Only those who had actively participated in the murder of innocent humans faced retribution. Captain Young-Ho Nam personally oversaw the liberation of the few human survivors who had been kept as research specimens in alien laboratories. These were people who had been tortured and experimented on for 3 years, treated as curiosities by species that viewed them as extinct. "You're safe now," Young-Ho told a group of rescued children who had been found in a Vorthak research facility. "The monsters who hurt you will never hurt anyone again." The children stared at him with wide eyes, barely able to believe that other humans still existed. They had been told that they were the last of their kind, kept alive only for alien scientific curiosity. Now they were learning that humanity had not only survived, but had become the most powerful force in the galaxy. Colonel Eunji Lim was coordinating the systematic dismantling of the Council's governmental structure. Every institution that had voted for Earth's destruction was being dissolved. Every official who had supported the genocide was facing trial for crimes against sentient life. "Colonel," reported Agent Kyung-soo, "we've located the secret archives, where the Council kept records of their previous genocides. The data confirms what Dr. So-young and Tae-min discovered. They've been systematically eliminating advanced species for over 10,000 years. Yoon-ji nodded grimly. How many civilizations did they destroy? Over 300 documented cases, came the reply. The Council's method was always the same. Infiltrate the target species, study their capabilities, then fabricate evidence of some threat that justified their elimination. The revelation sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Species that had trusted the Council for millennia discovered that their protectors had actually been predators, eliminating any civilization that showed too much promise or independence. When Veltar was finally brought before Admiral Min-soo in the ruins of the Council chamber, the once proud Vorthak Chancellor looked broken and defeated. His reptilian features showed none of their former arrogance as he knelt among the debris of his fallen empire. "What do you want from us?" Veltar asked. "You've already destroyed our military, our government, our colonies. What more can you take?" Min-soo studied the alien who had orchestrated Earth's destruction. "I want you to understand something that your species apparently never learned. The strong do not survive by destroying the weak. They survive by protecting them. The Council, ruled through fear and murder. That kind of power always eventually turns against itself." "So you're going to exterminate us like we did to you?" Veltar asked. "No," Min-soo replied. "We're going to do something your species never offered to. Humans, we're going to give you a real choice. You can join a new galactic community based on cooperation and mutual respect, or you can remain isolated on your homeworld under our supervision, but you will never again have the power to commit genocide." Throughout the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place as human forces offered the surviving Council species the same terms. Join a new federation where all species were treated as equals, or face permanent isolation from galactic civilization. The response was mixed. Some species, horrified by the revelation of the Council's true nature, eagerly joined the human-led federation. Others, too proud or too fearful to accept human leadership, chose isolation. A few tried to resist and were quickly crushed by forces they couldn't comprehend. Engineer Haiwan Shin would have been amazed to see what grew from the quantum message she had sent in Luna Station's final moments. Her single word, vengeance, had activated a network of human colonies that transformed her call for revenge into something greater, justice. Tai Min Choi, the researcher who had escaped Earth's destruction with crucial evidence about the Council's crimes, now served as the chief prosecutor in the war crimes tribunals that were being held on dozens of worlds. The evidence he and Dr. So-young had gathered became the foundation for a new understanding of galactic history. "The Council told us they were maintaining peace," Taemin announced during the opening of the trials. "But peace built on the graves of murdered civilizations is not peace. It's tyranny." Today we begin the process of holding accountable those who committed genocide in the name of order. Captain Ji-hoon Park, whose discovery of ancient technology had been used to frame humanity, was given the honor of placing a memorial on Earth where New York had once stood. The crystallized ruins of the city had been preserved as a reminder of what the Council's mercy had really meant. The memorial was simple, a black stone monument with the names of every human who had died during the genocide. At the top, in letters that could be seen from orbit, were the words, "They died believing in peace. We live to ensure their sacrifice means something." As the trials continued and the new galactic order took shape, humanity faced a choice of their own. They could become the new rulers of the galaxy, using their superior technology and military power to dominate other species the way the Council had. Or they could build something different, a civilization based on the ideals that the humans of Earth had died believing in. Admiral Min-Soo stood once more in the restored council chamber, now renamed the Galactic Assembly of Free Species. Representatives from over 200 worlds sat in the floating platforms that had been rebuilt after the war. But this time, every species had an equal voice, and decisions were made through genuine cooperation rather than the threat of force. The old council ruled through fear, Min-Soo announced to the assembly. They eliminated any species that might challenge their authority. We will not make the same mistake. Our strength comes not from the fear we inspire, but from the trust we earn. Not everyone was happy with the new order. Some human military commanders argued that they should use their overwhelming advantage.